presentation on computer-assisted learning, and we're going to talk a little bit about over-reliance on technology. All right, awesome. So we talked a little bit about it already, but the problem is over-reliance on tech. It's really kind of over-relying on technology takes away so much from us, and we really need to be cognizant and pay attention as to how we're using technology. Would somebody please read the quote for me? Go ahead.
If we continue to develop our technology without wisdom or prudence, our servant may prove to be our executioner.
All right, that was a quote from General Bradley from the Armistice Day speech in 1948. So it kind of applies to the situation, right? Making sure we're paying attention to how we're using technology and the technology we develop. Now, he was a little bit more speaking literally about this because obviously World War II general, atom bomb, but still applies in this situation. We've got to pay attention to how we're using our tech. Next slide, please. So my point of view and purpose. So my point of view is as a computer science student at UNC Charlotte, the purpose of this presentation is to inform and provide insight on computer-assisted learning and over-reliance on tech within schools. Next slide, please. Somebody read some definitions for me. You, sir.
Computer-assisted learning, any use of computers to aid or support the education or training of people. Oxford, reference October 2025.
Thank you, sir. Can we get a volunteer for the second? Charlie.
Over-reliance, the act or state of relying on something or someone too much.
Thank you. So pretty straightforward. I think you guys could probably figure these out based off your critical thinking skills, just off the words they are. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about a brief history of the subject, computers and technology. So first got its start from the National Defense and Education Act. This is, I think it was ratified in 1958 that is. And this is the first set of legislation that started to provide funding for tech in schools, provide grants to students. And as you can see, from 60, 70, the number of college students more than doubled. So now, a little bit forward, right? Computers in schools. 60s, you had your mainframe computers. Those are the big ones, right, that took up a whole room, ran some basic calculations, essentially. The 70s, we had, towards the end of the 70s, we had desktop computers start to make a rise into the scene, and then calculators as well. For the desktop computers, you could think like the Apple II or the Commodore, just for some examples of the really old tech, right? 90s, we had the internet first becoming public, and that's pretty much it. It just got widespread, and then by 2009, 93% of classroom computers were connected to the internet. Now here's something we all can relate to and know about. COVID pandemic, right? We were all alive. We all saw this firsthand. It shut down the world. So in 2020, about 77% of U.S. schools went remote. So that prevented a complete shutdown of the education system, right? Really great. It prepared us for the future in the classrooms. So in the future, another pandemic, God forbid, happens, or snow days, right? Those are a thing of the past. We're prepared. Next slide, please. So hey, here's how technology affects us. It's a great tool. I mean, there's some amazing things out there that make it really easy for us to perform our roles and jobs as students. So I've got a little video here. It's a training simulation. As Dee pulls that up for us, I'll talk to you guys a little bit about it. So basically, this is a truck driving simulation company. They prepare all of, or not all of, but they're one of the many that prepared the systems for the truck drivers and CDL school, right? So they can get some hands-on experience and actually do a little bit of driving before they get on the road and endanger people's lives. Because let's be honest, you guys are driven around here, people suck. Please go ahead. We got a way so you guys can actually see it. But basically, it's just going to go through, take some of the pros of their system, right? Like a big rig truck, take some different stuff. Anything you need, like to see for. Yeah, put them on the wrong side. I get to you, who knows? Or they're failing. All right, now, you also have things like smart boards. Some of you may remember when smart boards were brought into classrooms, some of the older folk, right? That's like the mid-thousands. Pretty life-changing, honestly, to be able to go up and watch videos, interact with the screen. Really great. Some teachers sucked at that. Couldn't figure it out. We were actually talking about it earlier in here. You know, you've always got that one family
That's
member
hers.
So,
Let me write my name down.
we also have calculators, right? They're amazing. I mean, they allow us to do computations, very complex computations, just touch a button. You know, we don't have to use abacus anymore. So, now on to accessibility. I mean, technology makes it to where all the people with disabilities and stuff can actually get an education. Yeah, they weren't confined to their homes. They can actually still get an education. Hearing impaired, right? We have so many things that make it to where they can actually learn. Closed captioning on Zoom is one of the good examples. I know that there are some students in some of my other classes that use it. And then other system tech. Now, on to critical thinking. So this is where we kind of start to take a little turn into the more negative side of tech. So critical thinking skills are heavily affected by our use of technology in schools. So, you know, you have so much access to all of your tech, really, like your cell phones, your computers, your laptops in class. And I think we can all attest to this. There's always somebody on Netflix or YouTube shopping, scrolling Amazon in class. It's like, what are you doing, guy? Pay attention. You're paying to be here. So it also affects the ability to recall information. So there was a study I was reading about. I can't provide specific numbers because I have this issue as well, the ability to recall information. And but we do have a great example provided to us Monday by Charlie when he was having some people do some math problems. And there were a lot of scared faces that I saw. And it was just what, like 25, 30 questions or something?
50 questions.
50 questions? Okay, that's a little bit more, so I'd be scared too. But basically, that fear, right, it's not ingrained in us anymore to actually do those things without assistance like a calculator. We haven't had to do that, which, you know, that's kind of tech's fault. And then now on to AI and academic honesty. We'll touch academic honesty first. So basically, there's a study that the National Library of Medicine did in, I think it's 2019, 2020, around COVID. And it was on Pakistani university students. And they found that 60% of students admitted to cheating on online exams. Uh-oh. Where'd it go? Who took it? But anyways, so, and then another 30% admitted to cheating at least once. So it's pretty terrible. We probably all know somebody that's been academically dishonest if that's not ourselves. And that's terrible. And that's kind of tech's fault too, right? It's easy access. You just pull out your phone, you know, pull it under the desk, get a little slick with it. Don't do that. That's bad. And now, I know everybody in here loves to talk about AI. That's another proponent of just how much easier it is to cheat these days. I mean, we have so many policies and rules now regarding AI and how we're implementing it in classes. I don't know if anybody can touch on that at all, some of their experience with AI or somebody getting caught or something like that. Any examples of AI, really? Please, sir.
I was surprised when I said I wasn't using AI for the programming assignments in one of my classes.
Really? They were
Yeah.
surprised?
Yeah, like a couple of people in my group were.
That's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that.
Really normalized.
Good on you for being a studious student and doing what you're supposed to, actually learning something. Now finally, social opportunities. So we're really cut back on our social opportunities. You guys could probably, if you've taken an online class, can attest to, everybody just joins. You don't really talk to any of your fellow students in these online classes, really, unless it's a class specifically designed for that. I don't know if this class would be one of those classes online to take, but I've had a great time here. So it always pays to be in person as much as you can. You really build and develop your communication skills, your networking. There's so many benefits to taking something in person as opposed to online. Go with that. Next slide, please. All right, so here's a study. I think it's between France and both the U.S. that both did this study, but they conducted it over 51 countries. There's over 340,000 high school students. They measured the tech use in schools versus student performance. And so they found a few things that matter. There's 5 things: the types of device, the location, who's using it, the amount of use, and then the school's performance by themselves. Next slide, please. So here's one of the graphs. This is measuring the effects of the different types of technology in a reading classroom. And as you can see, the data projectors and the internet connected computers, the things that are typically in the teacher's hands, they typically perform better or the students typically perform better when learning through these methods, as opposed to having these devices in their own hands, which is like the laptops, tablets, cell phones, things like that. So next slide, please. We got another graph. We got 2 more graphs. Sorry. So, like I was saying, the best results come when the teacher alone is using devices, and a lot worse when students are alone using them. There is some margin for the teacher and the student to use them, but it probably really depends on class. As you can see on this graph here. Next slide, please. So this last one, it's about the amount of time that students use it to perform the best. So a lot of these are 0. That's 0 minutes used that they use tech in class or outside of class. The left side of this graph is the time in classroom. The right side is for homework. But they found that for the most part, right, 0 minutes was the best for most subjects, and then the reading, not the reading, but some classes had over 60 minutes as the best times for the students to perform. Next slide, please. So now, who benefits and who's harmed? So you'll see here that I have students under both, because it's really great. We have a lot of opportunities with tech to learn and experience things that we otherwise would not. But also on the flip side, we have to be responsible. Use this tech the right way. Otherwise, we're literally handicapping ourselves. So, I'm sorry, you have something? Okay. Teachers also benefit, right? They can have so much more spread of their topics, how they teach, how they tackle topics, really. It's really a great benefit for teachers, so long as they're actually competent. So, and then schools also, they benefit from this. More funding is pumped into these schools from these grants. Another one was the CARE Act, which was a more recent one, which was in 2020, I believe, and it pumped in about $30 billion into schools as forms of grants and things like that. So now, harm. Businesses. Who can think of how businesses will be harmed? Anybody? You, sir.
Workers may not be educated to the standard they previously were students were achieving.
Right, exactly. That's really nail on the head. So, not only that, but the level that the employees are capable of performing at work is really distracted from, right? You don't want to have an employee who sucks at his job, knows nothing, and you have to spend more time training them up or firing them and getting a new person, right, that may just put you in the same situation. And then finally, society as a whole is harmed. Society as a whole is harmed because you don't want stupid people. Back onto the driving thing, there's a lot of dumb drivers out there. Maybe if some of them had taken and played around on that simulator for a little bit, life would be better. But people who can't think really are a detriment to society. Next slide, please. So hey, we got some solutions here. So the change starts with us. We really need to change our own lives and how we do things ourselves, being more responsible, being more disciplined in how we're using technology. Don't cheat. Don't use AI. Actually do it yourselves. And then we have to also have the responsibility to teach the younger generations healthy habits. So this goes outside of the classroom as well, because we don't want our children coming up, going to school, spending all day on the computer, coming home, spending all day in front of the TV or computer again, and just wasting away, rotting their brains, and just being terrible. And then finally,
I
sorry,
just want to put a thought. I just want to say, no wonder why CMS is failing.
no kidding. So, and then finally, like I said earlier, we have to recognize our actions. Pay attention to what we're doing. I can't touch on that enough. Does anybody else have any other solutions in mind that might be things to consider? All right, let's move to the next slide, please. And now the conclusion and significance. So, in conclusion, tech's great, but only when we use it in the right ways that benefit us. Now, on the micro individual level, it affects our critical thinking skills, our financial well-being. You don't want to be the guy that gets fired, right? Because he can't do his job or her job. And then our social skills are affected by this immensely, right? We touched on that with the online classes. Globally, we want a smarter society, right? To do that, we have to pay attention to how we're using tech. We want capable workers. Same thing. Do your job. Be good at it. And successful businesses, right? That's very important as well. Otherwise, we'll fail as a world. Next slide, please. That's it. Thank you very much.